I was misdiagnosed with a heart condition for 5 years. Because of it, I was forced to resign, told I couldn't have children, and obediently became a wife who needed to be taken care of. Until that day, when I saw my husband in the OBGYN department, holding his mistress, his hand resting on her swollen belly, saying the baby was planned. Only then did I realize the illness was fake, the marriage was fake, and the love was fake too. From that moment on, I didn't cry or make a scene. I started gathering evidence, freezing assets, reclaiming my company, and submitting the divorce agreement he had personally signed to the court. Since he treated me like a tool, I would personally dismantle his life. My heart, the one doctors had sentenced to a suspended death, the one that forced me to live carefully for 5 years, was perfectly healthy. The diagnosis report trembled violently in my hands. The doctor said apologetically, "Emily, I'm so sorry. Your file was mixed up back then. You're completely healthy." Healthy. I wanted to scream, to laugh, to throw the paper into the air. Daniel, my husband, had spent 5 years treating me like fragile glass because of this heart disease. He wouldn't let me work, wouldn't let me get tired, was afraid even loud conversations would overstimulate me. Now I could finally tell him we could have children. I could grow old with him. I rushed out of the hospital and called him, my hands shaking. No answer. I called his secretary. She said, "Daniel is usually in the OBGYN building, accompanying clients." OBGYN? My heart sank, almost against my will. I walked back into the hospital and went up to the 3rd floor. Outside the maternity exam rooms, the benches were filled with pregnant women, and then I saw them. My husband, Daniel, with his arm around a long-haired woman. His hand rested gently on her slightly rounded belly. I knew that gesture too well. I had imagined him doing that every day when I was pregnant. The woman turned her face. Mia, his company's PR manager, the girl who always said, "Emily, you're so lucky." I heard Daniel's voice, so tender it almost dripped with affection. "Don't be afraid. The doctor says the baby is very healthy. This is part of the plan, our future, our family," Mia said softly. "But what about Emily?" Daniel's voice turned cold, as if he had become a different person. "She can't have children. I can't let my family line end." "Don't worry. Once the baby is stable, I'll take care of it." My blood froze instantly. My fingers dug into my palm, painful, but nothing compared to the open inside my chest. Just then, Daniel looked up. Our eyes met. His face went deathly pale. The next second, he jumped up, pushed Mia away, and ran toward me, already wearing an expression of panic and concern. "Emily, why are you here? Your health is fragile. You shouldn't be running around." "This is Mia. She's Lucas's girlfriend. Lucas is on a business trip and asked me to accompany her for the checkup." See? He didn't even need time to think. The lie came effortlessly, so practiced it was chilling. Mia stood where she was and gave me a faint, victorious smile. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just looked into his frantic eyes and softly said, "Oh." As I turned to leave, I took out my phone, opened my notes app, and typed word by word what I had just heard. "She can't have children. I can't let my family line end. This is a planned child." My heart not beating had been a lie, but my marriage being dead was real. Daniel chased me into the parking lot and grabbed my arm. "Emily, listen to me." Sweat covered his forehead. I couldn't tell if it was panic or fear. "It really is Lucas's. I didn't say anything because I was afraid you'd overthink it. Your heart condition, you can't handle stress." I watched him perform calmly. The face I had loved for 8 years, every inch of it now spelled deception. "Is that so?" I took out my phone, found Lucas's number, dialed it, and turned on speaker. Lucas, Daniel's best friend and business partner. The phone rang 3 times before he picked up. "Hey." His voice was hoarse, like he'd just woken up. I asked directly, "Lucas, your girlfriend Mia is pregnant. Where are you?" There was silence on the other end for 2 seconds. Then came a clear, mocking laugh. "Girlfriend? Mia?" His voice was cold as ice. "I'm single. Is Daniel using me as a shield again?" Click. I hung up. Daniel's face went from pale, to red, to ashen. He snatched my phone violently. "Are you insane? Do you have to blow this up? Lucas and I have issues. He's talking nonsense." He pointed at my face, his voice rising. "Emily, Look at yourself. Paranoid. Emotionally unstable. Did you forget to take your meds again? I told you long ago, you have mental problems. Boom. It was like a bucket of ice water poured over my head. Mental problems? Of course. Over the past few years, whenever I questioned him, he'd say in that concerned tone, "Baby, aren't you being too sensitive? You've been emotionally unstable lately. Maybe you should see a therapist?" I took a slow step back. So this wasn't concern. It was control. It was branding me as crazy so I'd stay silent forever and doubt myself forever. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Just one photo. A sunset beach. 2 hands tightly clasped. Matching rings on their ring fingers, rings I had never seen before. Caption: he said sunsets should be watched with the most important person. It was Mia. I didn't reply. I didn't block her. I took a screenshot and saved it into a newly created album titled Evidence. This time, my heart didn't hurt. There was only a cold, razor-sharp clarity. That night, Daniel came home carrying a bouquet of my favorite expensive flowers and a watch I had never allowed myself to buy. He knelt on one knee in front of me, eyes red. "Wife, I was wrong. I was just weak for a moment. She seduced me. The one I love is you, only you. Forgive me." I'll cut her off immediately. The scene was so familiar. At gatherings, he'd block all the drinks for me and drink himself sick, saying, "My wife can't drink." In media interviews, he'd hold me close and say, "Without my wife's support, I wouldn't be where I am today." Everyone said, "Emily, you married the perfect man." It was me, again and again, looking at him with admiration in front of cameras. It was me, pouring all the startup money my parents left me into his company, helping him survive his hardest times. It was me, touched every time he said, "It's for your own good. Stay home and rest. Don't work so hard," and quitting my job willingly to become the woman behind him. As I looked at his repentant face, something suddenly came back to me. Half a year ago, the company went through a capital increase and share dilution. He brought the documents to me and said, "It's just a formality. Your shares will never change." I trusted him and signed without even reading them. Now, I turned on my computer and logged into the corporate registry system I hadn't used in a long time. I typed in the company's name. The shareholder list popped up. My name was still there, but my ownership percentage had dropped from 30% to 5%. Daniel's stake had risen from 40% to 65%. The remaining shares were held by a newly established investment company I had never heard of. I looked it up. The legal representative, Mia. Mia. My phone lit up again. A new post on Mia's Moments feed. A photo taken at a high-end restaurant, showing the hand of the man sitting across from her holding a wine glass. The cufflinks were the birthday gift I had given Daniel last year. Caption: all according to plan. Everything is going smoothly. Almost at the same time, Daniel's phone rang. He glanced at it, his expression shifting slightly, then walked out onto the balcony to take the call. I could vaguely hear his lowered voice. "Be good. Tonight really won't work. I have to be with her, just one last time. I promise, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll definitely be with you. The baby is what matters." When he came back in, the tenderness was already back in place. "Honey, there's an urgent situation at the company. I'll need to leave early tomorrow. Tonight I'm not going anywhere, I'm all yours." In the past, hearing that would have made me ache for how hard he worked. I would have made him soup. Now, all I felt was disgust. I nodded and even smiled at him. "Okay. You're tired. Get some rest." I didn't expose him. What's the point of confronting a liar? I wanted to see just how far this perfect husband, raised on my love and money, could keep acting. The next morning, Daniel left early, saying he was going to discuss a critically important round of financing. I stood behind the curtains and watched his car drive away. 10 minutes later, I went downstairs and drove out in the old car from the garage, the one he thought I'd stopped driving long ago. I had a feeling. I followed his car across most of the city, all the way to the seaside park famous for its sunsets. From far away, I saw them, Daniel and Mia, like the most ordinary loving couple, walking hand in hand along the beach. Mia pointed at the clouds on the horizon. Daniel lowered his head to look at her. The tenderness in his profile was exactly the same as in my memories. Then Mia stood on tiptoe and kissed him. Daniel kissed her back, but after a few seconds, he pushed her away, his movements a little stiff. The sea breeze carried fragments of their conversation to me. Don't fool around. The doctor said we need to be careful during the first 3 months. You only care about the baby. Mia's voice trembled with tears. You promised you'd divorce her soon. You said once the pregnancy was stable, you'd marry me. Do you even love me? Daniel was silent for a long time, so long that Mia started pounding on his chest. Finally, he said, the child comes first. Everything else can wait. Mia froze. She took a step back, her voice turning sharp. Daniel, what you love is just this child who can carry on your bloodline. Not me, and not that barren, worn-out wife. We're all just tools to you, aren't we? Daniel didn't argue. He turned and looked out at the sea. At that moment, standing behind the distant rocks, I felt ice-cold all over, yet strangely relieved. Tools. Yes. I was the tool he used to build his image as a devoted husband, manage his life, and even provide startup capital. And Mia was the tool to bear his child and fulfill his obsession with continuing the family line. Now this tool, me, was old, no longer useful, and ready to be discarded. I didn't rush over to tear at them. I didn't cry. I even took out my phone, zoomed in, and clearly photographed the two of them standing side by side. Then I turned and left. The sea breeze dried the last trace of moisture on my face. Back in the car, I opened Lucas's WeChat. Our last conversation was a New Year's greeting half a year ago. I sent him a photo, the key page of the capital increase agreement Daniel had signed, the one that diluted my shares. Less than a minute later, Lucas replied, "Where are you?" I typed 4 words, "Let's meet." Lucas chose a secluded private room in a tea house. He arrived before me. When he saw me, his eyes showed undisguised shock and pity. Sit. He poured me a cup of hot tea. Are you okay? No, I said directly, surprised at how calm my own voice sounded. But I will be soon, Lucas. I know you and Daniel fell out a long time ago, over control of the company, and over Mia. Lucas raised an eyebrow but didn't deny it. I want a divorce. I looked him straight in the eye. I want him to leave with nothing. No money, no company, no house, no savings, no investments. I want it all. Lucas froze for a moment. Then the flippant expression on his face disappeared, replaced by a sharp, focused problem-solving mode. It's difficult, but doable, he said quickly. You don't have a prenup. In principle, marital assets are split evenly, but he committed adultery, he's at fault. Add fraud on top of that, concealing the truth, transferring marital assets without your consent, diluting your shares, and the judge will likely favor you. How much evidence do you have? I slid my phone across the table. In the album, audio recordings, screenshots, photos, share transfer records, even bank statements showing his transfers to Mia. I'd cracked the auto login on his old computer. Lucas scrolled through them. His eyes grew brighter and brighter. Finally, he looked up at me. The way he looked at me had completely changed, evaluating, and even a trace of admiration. This is enough. But to make a successful entrepreneur walk away with nothing, the law alone isn't enough. He'll find ways to hide assets. He'll manipulate public opinion and play the victim. So, I said, picking up the thread, I want him socially destroyed too. Ruined, disgraced, abandoned by everyone. Lucas leaned back in his chair and studied me for a long moment. Then he suddenly laughed, not mockingly, but the kind of smile you wear when you've found a kindred spirit and can't wait to get started. Emily, I underestimated you. He leaned forward, lowering his voice, every word clear. I'll help you. Not because he stole what should have been mine, and not because I'm especially righteous. He paused, his gaze frank. It's because from the very first day you came to the company and calmly pointed out the loopholes in our contract, I knew, you're far better than Daniel ever was. He doesn't deserve you. It was the first, and the only, truly decent thing anyone said to me that disastrous day. On what conditions? I didn't believe in kindness without a price. After you regain control of the company, I want the equity and position I'm rightfully owed. And, he paused, looking uncharacteristically awkward. I hope to stand on your side, as a business partner, and, as someone pursuing you. The turn came suddenly, but when I looked into his eyes, no longer cold, now lit with something bright, I nodded. We cooperate first, I said. Anything else depends on my mood. The plan went into motion. Lucas was the perfect executor. We deliberately leaked word that a major overseas investor was interested in the company, but required the founding couple to have a stable marriage as part of the credibility check. Daniel took the bait immediately. He desperately needed this investment to secure his position and to give Mia and the baby a better life. At the same time, Mia began forcing the issue. She accidentally revealed her pregnancy to Daniel's parents and a few loose-lipped friends. Rumors spread quickly through their social circle. She couldn't wait to take my place and become the legitimate Mrs. Daniel. The timing was perfect. Lucas placed a carefully drafted financing framework agreement in front of Daniel. The terms were dense, convoluted, and deliberately obscure. He said the investor's representative would arrive the next day and that it had to be signed that night. Tucked inside was another document, the divorce agreement. The asset division clauses were written to resemble complex equity transfers and asset restructuring, quietly naming me as the recipient of nearly everything. Daniel was on the phone with Mia, who seemed to be crying and making a scene. He was irritated and distracted, eager to finalize the financing so he could go comfort the pregnant woman. "Why is it so thick?" He frowned, flipping through the pages. "International standard. Multiple jurisdictions," Lucas said evenly. "Focus on sections 3, 7, and Appendix 3. The rest is boilerplate." Daniel flipped to the sections Lucas mentioned and skimmed them, the very parts that were irrelevant. He was in a hurry, and he still retained a trace of trust in Lucas's professional authority, his former brother, now business partner, pen. He scribbled his name across every required signature line. 7 in total. Lucas's hidden camera recorded the entire signing process. Daniel tossed the pen aside, grabbed his coat. "You handle the rest. I've got something urgent." He rushed out, probably to reassure Mia that he'd soon be able to give her a proper status. Lucas picked up the documents, gently blew on the still wet ink, and messaged me, "Done." Half an hour later, I saw the scanned copy. Daniel's flamboyant signature lay glaringly beneath the title, Divorce Agreement. I had imagined countless times what it would be like if we ever separated. I thought I would fall apart, beg, tear the agreement to shreds. But when the moment actually arrived, watching the man I had loved sign the document that buried our marriage so easily, so unknowingly, I didn't cry. I just felt empty. Vastly, coldly empty. Lucas pushed the door open and saw me staring at the document. My eyes red. He said nothing. He simply handed me a cup of warm water, then stepped back toward the window, giving me space. No opportunistic comfort. No physical contact. No ambiguous words. That restraint gave me more peace than any sweet talk ever could. I drank the water, forced the tears back, and locked the agreement into the safe. Next step. My voice steady again. It's time for his family to properly meet Mia. Daniel's parents had never liked me. They thought my poor health and inability to bear children were unforgivable sins. The weekend came, Daniel's father's birthday banquet. In past years, I organized everything, cooked the food, endured his mother's endless criticisms. This year, Daniel hesitantly told me the day before. "My parents said, they want to keep it simple. You don't need to bother." I knew it meant they were officially introducing Mia. That afternoon, I drove to the old family house. Not to attend the banquet, but to park under the trees at the end of the alley. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I saw everything clearly. Mia, in a loose dress, sat in the seat that used to be mine. Daniel's mother held her hand affectionately, stroking her belly. The table was full of elaborate dishes, clearly not the housekeeper's cooking. Daniel's father was glowing, raising his glass. "Our Daniel finally has an heir. That's real cause for celebration. Some people sit in the position and never produce anything, should have known better and stepped aside long ago." His mother glanced at the empty place setting that had once been prepared for me and snorted. "Exactly. Wasted my son's efforts for so many years. Mia is much better, just look at her. Blessed and fertile." Mia hurried to defuse the moment. "Auntie, please don't say that. Emily is kind of pitiful too," she said, pitiful, but couldn't hide the smile on her face. Daniel sat beside her, head down, eating in silence, tacitly allowing every insult directed at me. His younger sister, the one who'd always had a bit of sympathy for me, couldn't help speaking up. "Brother, you're not even divorced yet. This is too much. Enough." Their mother snapped immediately. "Eat your food. Stop taking an outsider's side." The girl slammed her chopsticks down and ran upstairs. Watching this, the last bit of warmth drained from my heart. This family I had served for 8 years, with endless gifts on holidays, running around whenever someone was sick, had never once treated me as one of their own. I was just a useful daughter-in-law. When I wore out my usefulness, I could be discarded and even trampled on. Night fell, and the banquet ended. They walked Mia out. Daniel's arm wrapped protectively around her waist. His mother was still reminding her of pregnancy precautions. After all their cars drove away, I got out of mine and used the key I still had. Daniel had probably forgotten to open the door. The house was silent. I went straight upstairs to the small room where I'd always kept my personal belongings. Inside were many things: the jewelry box my mother had left me, they'd always said it was safer stored here, my important certificates, several valuable small paintings, and limited edition books I'd bought with my own premarital savings. Calmly, I took out the large suitcase I'd prepared long ago and packed everything that belonged to me, nothing left behind. On my way downstairs, I passed the living room and saw a framed copy of our wedding photo still hanging on the wall. In it, Daniel looked at me with deep affection. I walked over, took the frame down, removed the glass, and slowly tore the photo in half, one half him, one half me, my half. I took with me his half. I dropped into the trash. This wasn't a farewell. It was simply reclaiming what had always been mine. Step 1. I temporarily stored the things I'd taken from the house in a small apartment Lucas provided. I began systematically inventorying my marital assets, the luxury goods Daniel had given me, bags, jewelry, watches I had never dared to use, thinking they were proof of his love. A friend who works as an appraiser came to take a look. She picked up the diamond necklace Daniel claimed he had bought with 3 months of his salary, and examined it under a magnifying glass for several minutes before sighing. "Emily, this is moissanite, not a diamond. Cost maybe a few $100. I picked up the limited edition handbag next. High-quality replica, good among A-grade fakes, but the details are off. The watch? Reassembled from old, refurbished movements. The entire cabinet of gifts of love, almost nothing genuine. The most expensive coat? Real, but the tags hadn't been removed, and the receipt showed it was purchased with my supplementary card." I sat on the floor, staring at this pile of glamorous trash, and suddenly laughed. No wonder he always said, "Honey, you deserve the best. Don't worry about money. If you like it, buy it. These are all tokens of my love for you." So even his love had been carefully calculated. Minimal cost, maximal impact, designed to keep me touched and loyal. A truly cost-effective transaction. Then, Daniel sent a long WeChat message, confessions, memories, and at the end, "I'm going on a 3-month business trip to Europe for that big project. Let's both stay calm. When I return, I'll handle everything, and we'll start fresh." Almost simultaneously, Mia's Moments feed updated. 9 photos, blue sea, sunny sky, private pool, luxury hotel. She wore a bikini, her baby bump visible. Captioned, "Thanks, darling, for arranging such a perfect trip even while on business. 3 months of US time, can't wait." Location, a Mediterranean island. I screenshot both Mia's post and Daniel's WeChat, and filed them in my evidence folder. Then, I blocked his WeChat and refused all his calls. Strangely, this time, I felt nothing. No waves of anger, no pain. It was like cleansing a long-infected wound, though a scar remained. It no longer hurt. That evening, Lucas came by with some documents. Seeing the pile on the floor, he immediately understood, his eyes flashing with a brief anger, quickly suppressed. "Want me to help get rid of these?" he asked. "Donate them," I said. "Maybe someone needs these pretty decorations." We sat on the living room carpet, discussing the next steps for the equity operation. Sitting close, I could smell his clean, soapy scent. His thinking was sharp, his actions decisive, a stark contrast to Daniel's false calculations. When he left, he hesitated at the door, looking back at me. "You really can handle this alone?" "Yes." I nodded. He smiled. "Good. Then, good night, partner." The door closed. Silence filled the apartment. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark for a long time, then gently placed my hand on my lower abdomen. There, a brand new, real little life was quietly growing. Yes, I was pregnant. The child was Lucas's. That night, when we reached our mutual understanding and confirmed our feelings, it was a happy accident, and yet it felt destined. I didn't tell him immediately. I wanted to wait until everything was more secure, but I knew I was no longer alone. 3 months passed quietly. Daniel occasionally sent messages from unknown numbers, ranging from pleading to threatening to playing the victim. I ignored them all. He probably assumed I was in some corner, crying my eyes out, waiting for him to fix everything and hand me a chance to take him back. Lucas and I carried out our plan methodically, using Daniel's business trip and the gaps in communication. We worked with other shareholders who had long been dissatisfied, gradually taking control of daily operations. My legal team had all the litigation materials ready. Those 3 months were the most peaceful, fulfilling time of my life. I reconnected with old collaborators and started some remote consulting work I enjoyed and excelled at. My body reacted to pregnancy at times, but every checkup showed a healthy baby. One Friday evening, 3 months later, Daniel returned. He didn't warn me. He went straight to our house, using his key, except it didn't work. He twisted it hard, knocked on the door. The door opened. I was standing inside, wearing comfortable home clothes, my complexion healthy, my baby bump already visible. Daniel's expression was like a spilled palate, shock, confusion, bewilderment, finally settling on incredulous rage. You, he pointed at my belly, his hand trembling. Whose is this? Emily. I was gone only 3 months. You couldn't wait? I looked at him calmly. Not yours. 3 words, like 3 knives, made him stagger. Who's the wild man? He was furious, about to rush inside. At that moment, a figure appeared from the living room behind me. Lucas, in casual clothes, holding half a peeled apple, naturally stood beside me, slinging an arm around my shoulder. Daniel, speak carefully. Lucas's voice was cold. My girlfriend is carrying my child. Any objections? Girlfriend? Daniel looked at Lucas, then me, then at our joined hands and my rounded belly. His facial muscles twisted. You two were together all along? No wonder you've been targeting me. Lucas, Emily, you've been cheating on me all along, haven't you? Cheating? I finally laughed, a cold, mocking laugh. Daniel, while you were vacationing with Mia on the island, while your mother scolded me for being barren, while you secretly diluted my shares, did you ever ask yourself who's actually cheating? Lucas and I only got together after you signed the divorce agreement. I added, each word crystal clear, legal, moral, reasonable. Daniel froze as if struck by lightning. What, divorce agreement? When did I? 3 months ago. You rushed to be with Mia, signing the financing documents Lucas gave you. I reminded him kindly. Do you want me to show you? Your signature is quite pretty. His face turned as pale as paper. Daniel stormed into the study like a madman, searching for the document, of course. He couldn't find it. That's fake. You tricked me into signing. It doesn't count, he roared, eyes bloodshot. Whether it's a trick or not, the judge will decide, I said, signaling Lucas. Lucas pulled out a tablet and played a video showing Daniel in the office 3 months ago, impatiently flipping through the documents and signing. The footage clearly captured the keywords in the document's title. As for legal validity, I took out my phone, dialed a number, spoke briefly, then put it on speaker. A stern male voice came through. Mr. Daniel, this is the Intermediate People's Court. Regarding your divorce case with Ms. Emily, the plaintiff has provided sufficient evidence. Upon review, the divorce agreement was signed voluntarily and validly, and you are found to be at significant fault. The court has issued a default judgment today, granting the divorce and executing property division according to the agreement. Legal documents and asset freeze notices have been sent to your company and primary residence. Please take note. The call ended. Daniel stood dumbfounded, as if the legal terms made no sense. Impossible. My company, my money, my house, he muttered. The company? I'm the majority shareholder now. The house? My premarital property, you forgot? Back then, you begged me to sell my parents' small apartment for the down payment to give us a home, but the deed was always in my name only. As for savings and investments, I smiled. You, the at-fault party, are practically walking away with nothing. Your personal accounts should already be frozen. Emily, you can't do this. We're married. 8 years. Didn't I love you? Was all that goodness fake? He lunged for my hand, but Lucas blocked him. Love? I tilted my head, as if hearing the funniest joke ever. Daniel, do you remember 3 years ago, when I had that severe heart attack and was hospitalized? He froze. That day, I just had food poisoning, a gastrointestinal infection. But you, in front of the doctor, urgently described my heart history, emphasizing that I couldn't be stressed. The doctor, out of caution, treated it as a heart condition. Later, that erroneous diagnosis became your best tool to control me. I stepped forward, staring into his suddenly contracting pupils. Now, I'm telling you, I never had heart disease. That diagnosis was wrong. 3 months ago, the hospital officially revoked it. I'm healthy enough to run a marathon, and while I was healthy, fully able to have children, you were already finding another woman for your lineage obsession. The one you loved was never me, or even Mia. You only loved yourself, and your pathetic obsession with proving your masculine pride through offspring. Daniel collapsed as if all his bones had been pulled out. Eyes glazed. No, it's not like that. I love you, Emily. I was just confused, he babbled, crying, trying to grab my legs. Lucas grabbed him, holding him back in front of me. I looked at the pitiful man on the floor without a shred of emotion. Your moment of confusion destroyed your life. My clarity saved mine. I linked my arm with Lucas's. Lawyers and court officers will arrive shortly to inventory belongings. Please leave my home. I turned to leave, adding one last sentence, and congratulations, you're about to become a father. Though, that may not be your child. Those words hit like a bomb, making Daniel jump from the edge of collapse. You're lying. Mia's child is obviously mine, he screamed, veins bulging on his neck. Is that so? I signaled Lucas. Lucas pulled a thin manila folder from his briefcase and tossed it in front of Daniel. See for yourself. Private investigator reports, timestamps, locations, photos, hotel records, all clear. Before you and Mia planned this child, she had at least 2 close friends. One was a fitness trainer, whose timeline fits perfectly. Daniel trembled as he pulled out the photos. One by one, they were damning. The report concluded with a brief medical assessment, based on Mia's gestational week and the records. No, this can't be, she wouldn't dare lie to me, he refused to believe. Why wouldn't she dare? I said coldly. You deceived me for 8 years. She deceived you for months. Hard to understand? You're the same kind of people. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Lucas opened it to find 2 uniformed court officers and my lawyer. Mr. Daniel, per court judgment and enforcement order, we need to clear your personal items from this property immediately and ask you to leave. Additionally, all your bank and securities accounts have been frozen. Here is a copy of the freeze order, the lawyer said, businesslike. Daniel was like a puppet, lifted and controlled. He grabbed the lawyer's arm like a lifeline. I'm suing her. For fraud. And Lucas. They colluded to steal my property. The lawyer calmly withdrew his arm. Mr. Daniel, regarding the divorce agreement, we have complete video proof that you signed voluntarily. As for the assets, you were at fault and transferred property illegally. My suggestion, deal with your other problems first. The lawyer glanced meaningfully at the detective reports scattered on the floor. Daniel followed the gaze, suddenly remembering, and frantically dialed Mia's number. After over 10 rings, she picked up. He didn't wait for her to speak, shouting into the phone, Mia, UB*TCH. Whose kid is in your belly? On the other end, Mia's panicked voice, Daniel? What are you talking about? The child is obviously yours. Is Emily trying to provoke you again? I have proof. You slept with the fitness trainer. Tell me, is it his? Silence. A few seconds later, Mia's voice changed, no longer soft, now sharp and biting. So what if I did? Daniel, who do you think you are? You used me as a tool to have a child. Why can't I have a little fun? And honestly, do you even know your own capabilities? Just those few minutes each time. What's wrong with letting someone else help? You, Daniel shook, too angry to speak. Also, the doctor hinted long ago that your sperm motility is extremely low, making natural conception difficult. You refused to accept it and insisted on proving yourself. I just went along and helped you prove it. You should even thank me. I didn't let you get exposed in front of Emily so soon." Mia laughed lightly, then hung up. Beep, 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 the busy signal echoed through the silent living room. Daniel froze in place, holding his phone, his face gradually draining of color until it was the pale gray of death. Low sperm motility, difficult to conceive naturally, so the one who couldn't have children was never me. It was him. He had known all along. That's why he was so desperate for the child in Mia's womb, to cover his own defect, to maintain his ridiculous sense of pride. And he had pinned the blame for infertility on me, humiliating me for years. The truth was more ironic and cruel than I ever imagined. Daniel made a strange gurgling sound in his throat. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed straight backward. "He's fainted," the court officer shouted. Lucas frowned and called emergency services. I stood still, looking at Daniel unconscious on the floor, gently touching my belly. "Baby, see, this palace built on lies collapses so quickly." Daniel was taken away by ambulance for acute stress reaction and long-term psychological pressure, requiring hospitalization. Life with Lucas didn't stop. The company needed a complete overhaul. I officially returned as the largest shareholder and newly appointed chairwoman. Former employees, once alienated by Daniel's interference, were now impressed by my calm professionalism, methodically handling the crisis and presenting pre-planned new development strategies. Their attitudes shifted immediately. As for Mia, after terrifying Daniel over the phone, she quickly realized her protector was gone and scrambled to pack, planning to flee. But she hadn't counted on Daniel being both generous and controlling. The apartment he had given her was registered in his mother's name. The credit cards he provided were secondary. Once the primary cards were frozen, they became useless. Any funds in her accounts, of dubious origin, were quickly frozen for investigation. Desperate, Mia showed up at the parking lot of my company. She looked worn, her belly obviously pregnant. "Emily, I know I was wrong. Please spare me." Daniel forced me. He lied and said you'd already agreed to the divorce. "There's a life in my belly, you can't just watch me suffer." I looked at her. All her former arrogance and smugness had vanished, leaving only pathetic calculation. "Why should I save you?" I asked. "When you sent taunting messages, posted sunset photos, stirred drama in front of my mother-in-law, did you ever think about today?" She choked back sobs, crying harder. I'm a woman too. Why are you being so merciless? For the sake of the child was your choice, and you bear the consequences. I interrupted. As for Daniel, the compensation you deserve will be legally enforced. And for you. I paused and pulled out a business card, not mine, but from another friend who runs a legitimate online maternal and baby goods store. "Hiring customer service. If you want to survive on your own, call this number. Tell them I sent you, and they can give you an online customer service interview. You can work from home during pregnancy and breastfeeding. The pay isn't high, but it's enough to support yourself and the child." Mia froze, staring at me in disbelief, then at the card, her face turning red and pale. She probably expected me to humiliate her or call the police. "Why?" she murmured. "No reason," I said, putting my bag away. "I'm not a saint, and I haven't forgiven you. I just think, why should women make life harder for other women? Your biggest mistake wasn't stealing a man. It was treating another woman as an imagined enemy and stepping stone, forgetting the path you should take yourself." I placed the card on her car's hood and got into my own vehicle. In the rearview mirror, she stood frozen for a long time before finally bending down and picking up the card. Lucas waited in the car, having witnessed the whole thing. "Soft-hearted?" he asked, smiling. "Not soft-hearted," I said, eyes forward. "Unnecessary. She has already paid the price for her choices. I have more important things to do than waste time hating someone irrelevant." Giving a way out isn't mercy, it's a calm, elevated detachment. Every day forward, she will live under the shadow of this chance I gave her. That is the greatest punishment. And I turned to Lucas and smiled, holding his hand. "I'm happy now. Happy people don't bother with grudges." After Daniel was discharged, the world had already changed. He returned to the company and found his access card deactivated. The front desk politely informed him, "Sir, you have been removed from all positions by the board. Please do not interfere with our work." He tried contacting former confidants and partners, either the calls didn't go through or were curtly declined. Those who once called him brother now avoided him like the plague. Even worse, the media began reporting, not tabloid gossip, but serious business coverage. Shocking. XX Tech CEO caught in marital affair. Asset transfer. Wife retaliates and strips him of everything. Former model entrepreneur's image collapses. Shareholder fraud suspected. Lucas played a key role. He provided evidence of Daniel's legally borderline business maneuvers over the years. They had been partners, and Daniel hadn't fully evaded him. While insufficient for criminal charges, it was enough to scare off partners and make banks reassess risks. When the walls fall, everyone pushes. Investors pulled out. Major clients paused cooperation citing moral risk. The company's stock plummeted before I stabilized it, and Daniel's frozen. Pledged shares were nearly worthless. He went from a proud CEO to an industry laughingstock. Desperate, he even came to my new apartment building, waiting the entire night, unshaven, eyes sunken. Emily, his voice hoarse, pleading, I know I was wrong. I'm a scumbag. For all these years, please give me a way out. The company is my heart, you can't ruin it. Also, my mother is sick, needs money. He tried to play the sympathy card, even using his mother's illness to manipulate me. I listened calmly. Daniel, first, the company isn't ruined, it's thriving, with clearer direction and a healthier team. What destroyed it was your greed and irresponsibility. Second, I'm sorry your mother is ill, but medical expenses, you can apply for social assistance. Or, ask Mia, the one you carefully picked to continue your line. Third, I said, staring at his face, which had turned ashen, there was never any affection between us. From the moment you planned to make me infertile, from the moment you went to Mia's prenatal checkups while lying to me, it ended. Everything you're experiencing now isn't my revenge. It's the consequence of every choice you made yourself. The court ruling will be enforced. If you dispute the asset division, you may appeal, but according to my lawyer, your chances of winning are zero. The light in his eyes went out completely. That was the despair of realizing he truly had nothing left and everyone had turned against him. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, he just slouched, turned, and stumbled out around the corner. The autumn wind blew fallen leaves across his retreating back, making him look especially desolate. I felt neither satisfaction nor sympathy. He seemed like a stranger walking the tragic path of his own choices. Lucas came out of the building and draped a coat over me. It's chilly. Let's go inside. I leaned into him, feeling that steady warmth. Is it all over? He asked quietly. For him, yes, I said, gently touching my belly. The baby kicked softly. For us, it's only just beginning. Daniel never appealed. Perhaps he couldn't afford a lawyer, or perhaps he knew there was no chance of success. The court's enforcement was thorough. The last of his remaining assets were liquidated to cover my legal fees and compensation. He became penniless, renting a small, shabby room in a city slum. I heard he went to Mia for money, got into a huge argument, almost got violent, and the neighbors called the police. Mia, meanwhile, had already taken the job I recommended and moved to another city, vanishing completely from his life. His parents, who had earlier fawned over Mia and humiliated me, lost face in front of their relatives and severed ties with him. His sister occasionally gave him a bit of help, but it was barely a drop in the bucket. The successful man's circle he had painstakingly built had long since excluded him. He tried to find work, but background checks barred him from almost every company. Any decent employer avoided someone with his notorious reputation and potential legal entanglements. His life was free falling into the mud. Meanwhile, my life had entered a new chapter. Our baby was born in spring, a healthy boy. The delivery went smoothly, with Lucas by my side the entire time, his hands turning blue from my grip, yet smiling like a fool, holding the child, his eyes shining. He said, Emily, let's get married. Not because of the baby, but because I love you. I've loved you for a long time. I want to give you and the baby a real home. This time, I didn't hesitate. I nodded. Yes, we had a simple, warm wedding with only true friends attending. Lucas cried more than I did. My career also flourished. The company, under my leadership, regained vitality and expanded into healthier business lines. I rediscovered the joy and satisfaction of work. Occasionally, I would hear news of Daniel. People said he drank, did odd jobs, looked dazed. Some sympathized, some lamented, but I never paid attention. Once, while buying clothes for the baby at a mall, I saw a figure in the discount section whose back looked like Daniel's. He glanced back, and our eyes met. In that one glance, there was complicated regret, resentment, and maybe a lingering trace of malice. I calmly looked away, as if seeing air itself, pushing the stroller toward the bright, warm brand clothing section. Lucas held up a cute outfit, smiling and waving at me. My world no longer had anything to do with him. His failure, his downfall, everything he suffered was the result of his own choices, not my doing, not my responsibility, and not worth a shred of my emotion. Love and hate require energy. My energy is for those who love me and those I love. Another autumn came. Lucas and I walked in the park with our 1-year-old. The child wobbled as he learned to walk. Lucas nervously hovering, sweating more than I did as a mother. The sunlight was warm, the sky clear and blue. A news push notification popped up on my phone. The headline sensational: former business golden boy found wandering streets. Suspected mental instability. Detains passerby. The image was blurry, but unmistakably Daniel, thinner, disheveled, eyes wild. Lucas glanced at it, frowned, reaching to swipe it away. I shook my head and calmly dismissed the notification. Don't bother with it, I said. It doesn't matter anymore. The baby leaped into my arms, giggling, dribbling on my face. I held his soft little body, my heart full. I once thought losing Daniel meant my world had collapsed. Later, I realized it was just the cage that trapped me that had fallen. I didn't take revenge. Revenge means you still care, still let them affect you. I simply saw the truth, reclaimed what was mine, and left the swamp of lies and schemes behind. He chose deception, betrayal, and trampling others' hearts to build his pedestal. The pedestal crumbled, inevitable. I chose clarity, independence, and cherishing those truly worth it. My path widened, and my world grew brighter. This was never a war between him and me. I didn't defeat him. I simply made the right choices in my own life. He paid the price for his mistakes and his. That's all. The sunset cast long, warm shadows over our little family. I squeezed Lucas's hand, and he returned the gesture with gentle firmness. Ahead, lights gradually flickered on, guiding us home, warm and bright. My story may have had a terrible beginning, but thankfully, I wrote the ending I truly wanted.